Hey, Rob from Order 42 here, and today we're going to be talking some Tolkien. That's right. We've got some new announcements, some interesting things in the works. Of course, we've got the Amazon series that they're spending something like $465 million dollars on the first season. I mean, that's a lot of scratch. And then just yesterday, Thursday, June 10th, New Line announced that they're coming out with an animated movie that's kind of an addition to Lord of the Rings called The War of the Rohirrim. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack here, a lot to discuss. So, let's get into it. So, yeah, the Hollywood Reporter first kind of announced this. They said, titled "The Lord of the Rings: The War of the Rohirrim," the standalone feature will be directed by Kenji Kamiyama, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, maybe Kamiyama, an anime veteran who last directed TV series Ghost in the Shell standalone complex and produced by Joseph Chow. The two have worked on some of the biggest online franchises over the years, including Knights of the Zodiac, Saint Seiya, Ultraman, and Appleseed, on top of Ghost in the Shell. I mean, the fact that you're gonna, you're going for somebody who's been doing some good work in the anime realm. I mean, that's good news, right? And possibly more interesting is this here is that the Rohirrim is being written by Jeffrey Addis and Will Matthews, the creators behind Netflix's Emmy-winning The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance series. I was a big fan of that series. Unfortunately, Netflix didn't see the value in it past that first season. Apparently, it was pretty expensive. So yeah, it didn't attract the viewership that they really wanted from it. Of course, movie making, series making, it's a business, right? And if you're not getting the return, you're not going to put in the money for the second season or whatever second movie, whatever it is. So I get it, but it's kind of a bummer. Interesting that they're going to be working on this though. It says also Philippa Boyens, who co-wrote Rings and Hobbit with filmmaker Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh, winning the Best Adapted Screenplay Oscar for Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, is serving as a consultant on the project. And then of course it says Jackson is not involved, but it has his blessing. I mean, but look, does that matter? I mean, I don't really know. And there's a lot to kind of think about and unpack here. It also says here that Rohirrim ties to the original trilogy, specifically the second installment, The Two Towers, by focusing on an untold story behind Helm's Deep, the fortress at the center of the movie's epic battle. The story will be set hundreds of years before that fateful war, and according to the announcement, tell of the life and blood-soaked times of its founder, Helm Hammerhand, the King of Rohan. Now, to be perfectly honest, I've read quite a bit of Tolkien. I haven't read everything, okay? I'm just putting that out there. I'm getting through it. But yeah, the Rohan and the Rohirrim and all of that. I got to be honest, it's not my favorite stuff, right? Two Towers to me is a kind of a slog of a movie. To be perfectly honest, I think Helm's Deep is overlong, and I think it's drawn out, and it's all about action, and that's not what Tolkien's about. I mean, that's just not what he's about. So for me, it's kind of like, okay, cool, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to take this news. Of course, I'm interested in it. It's more Tolkien stuff on the screen. I'm interested in that. I don't know how excited I could be about it. One of the things that I did pretty much, well, a lot yesterday. A lot. I read a lot. I read a lot on Reddit about what people think about this, and Twitter, and it's kind of interesting because you've really got two polarizing sides. You've got the people that are fans of the movies, right, and haven't read any Tolkien. Most people, and then there are the people that have read the books, and the people that have only read a few of them, they're very excited. They're like, ah, cool. This is awesome. And then the people that are the hardcore, the people that have read everything, they don't seem very excited, right? And this is just a problem in fandom of any kind, right? There's this gatekeeping effect that happens. There's a part of me that I can see both points of view, because The Hobbit I read when I was in 7th grade. And then we watched the cartoon, which I'm going to be honest, I love it, okay? In fact, that's part of the reason why the movies never worked for me, is because it didn't capture that magic that that animated series or that animated movie grabbed for me. But anyway, all I'm trying to say is there's going to be people in every fandom that are going to try to gatekeep you, And if you're excited about this show, more power to you. And I'm excited for you. If you're not excited for it and you think that Tolkien, whether you're talking about J.R.R. or Christopher, are spinning in their graves right now because they would never approve of something like this, there's a part of me, I can see your point of view. I honestly can. Because, look, the creator of something is the end all be all. I mean, that's just the truth. I mean, you look at George Lucas, what he's written and what he created, that's the end all be all. But you've got to leave room for more people to come in and kind of take the reins. You're not going to live forever. So with that in mind, I'm excited to see what they do with it. I honestly feel like there's more interesting parts of the Tolkien, what legendarium, I guess you could call it, right? There's a lot of stories that could be told. This one is one of the less exciting, at least to me, but who knows? So it's really kind of like, where do I really stand in all this? I just have to realize that there are parts of, like, if I'm interested in something, there's a pretty good chance that something is going to be created that's just not for me. And it's just the honest truth. I mean, there's plenty of things that are made for Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, right? There's plenty of cartoons and children's comics and stuff like that. It's just not for me. And I have to understand that. I have to recognize it and go, you know what? That's fine. That's fine. Those people can enjoy that, and I can be over here enjoying what I enjoy. I kind of feel like the hardcore Tolkien fans, they kind of have to understand that sometimes this oh well, it's not as deep and it's not as rich of lore and all that kind of that's all true. That is absolutely true. But you have to understand that that's also a gateway for more people to be interested in the thing that you're interested in. Not all of them are going to do it. Not all of them are going to pick up the Silmarillion and get into the lore and read about the first age and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to happen all the time. But then you're going to get those people that become big fans of what you're a fan of. And I mean, isn't that kind of part of it? So yeah, I'm very torn with my opinion on this. First of all, it's animated. I'm not always the biggest animated animation fan, I guess. Whether it's anime or just traditional animated, like say Invincible over on Amazon, there are things about that I really enjoyed, and things about it where I was like, that looked cheap and like you ran out of money, and yeah. So it just depends. It depends on how this turns out. I mean, of course, I'm going to be excited about it. I'm going to want to see it, but I have to temper my expectations, especially now that I've been reading so much Tolkien and getting into this deep lore that exists and has been there for a very, very, very long time that I hadn't been exposed to. So I kind of feel like maybe that's the attitude that a lot of these hardcore Tolkien fans, right? I feel like they need to just step back for a second and go, you know what? This could be a gateway for more people to be interested in it, and I can't see how that's a bad thing. Now, one of the last things that they said in this article is, focusing on the Amazon releases, at least, kind of coming soon. It says they paid $250 million for the screen rights to Rings and is planning on spending close to $1 billion on a series franchise. It's weird how those numbers keep fluctuating. But anyway, Amazon, however, does not have the rights to the actual Ring story, and its multiple series will be set in a different age of the world that is known as Middle Earth. I mean, kind of weird there. What they're trying to say is that this is taking place in the second age, and that's where I'm kind of asking you, like, if you know, because this is where it gets really foggy to me. Amazon recently purchased MGM, which means that they are going to have all of the rights to the Hobbit movies because those were created by, or those are owned by MGM. And I believe New Line has all of the rights for Lord of the Rings, which this is a New Line production here. So I'm kind of interested. Is there a possibility that we could see something, in the future, maybe from Amazon, from someone else? I don't know. about the first age, because to me a lot of the first age stories in within the Tolkien legendarium I really really enjoy and I think could be really cool. I mean, Balrogs riding on dragons, I mean, sign me up. That sounds awesome. But also I don't really know. I don't know where the rights are. I know that MGM for a long time, that's why The Hobbit took so long to come to fruition, is because MGM owned the rights to that. And of course, New Line is who made the original Lord of the Rings, in 2001, '02, and '03. So yeah, there's that weird, the rights issues are strange. And of course, Tolkien himself said many many times, Lord of the Rings can't be adapted. It's ridiculous to try. Christopher Tolkien later on said the same sorts of things. So I'm kind of interested what, where people stand on it. I mean, it's like if you're not, I mean, if your last name isn't Tolkien, I don't think we have a lot of say, to be perfectly honest. I mean, we can try to side with the creators whom we love, right? I mean, Christopher Tolkien's work, I gotta be honest, is super amazing, right? Taking everything that his dad worked on and putting it into a place where people can digest it and kind of understand where his head was at. That is amazing stuff, and I love it. But I also know that things move on, right? So I'm really torn here on what to feel about all this. We also know that the Amazon series is going to be taking part or taking place in the Second Age, and in the Second Age is where Morgoth is kind of like, he's kind of like the devil, right? All of that was kind of handled in the first age. Sauron takes power, who's kind of, Morgoth's underling, understudy, apprentice, kind of. He's the one that kind of, he takes, the rings get forged and all of the, uh, he starts to take over the world, right? And then that's when, at the end of the second age, is when, the big fight between, Morgoth's, Sauron's forces and Isildur and Elrond and all, the kind of the beginning of Lord of the Rings, right? That's basically the end of the second age. The third age begins after that. So all of this is super interesting. I'm really excited to see where they go with it, but I also am aware that there's a pretty good chance that there's going to be things in there that I'm not going to be a fan of. Like, for example, in The Hobbit, Tariel, right? Evangeline Lilly, whom I love. I've always liked Evangeline Lilly, right? Ever since I first saw her in Lost, I was a fan. I thought she was great, as Kate. And to hear that she was gonna be, oh, she's gonna be like a new elf in The Hobbit, I was like, cool. And turns out I didn't like her story at all. And all of the additions, all the Legolas and all that stuff, I couldn't stand any of it. But you never know, right? Because Arwen isn't the one that in Lord of the Rings, right? Fellowship of the Ring. You remember she does all the chanting stuff, and the water comes and with the horses in the water kind of thing, and they kind of drown the ring wraiths. That's not Arwen either. So they changed a lot of stuff along the way. Some of it is better executed than others. But I also have to realize that as shallow as some of the movies and series will probably end up being, it's still fun to see, and to see, of course you had Alan Lee and John Howe working on all of the designs and stuff. So you're seeing some of the designs that you had in your head for years and years and years on screen. I mean, that's cool, So it's hard for me to know exactly where I stand. I guess really I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm also aware that this is all a business and they're going to try to appeal to the greatest amount of people as possible. And if that means, not doing everything that a Tolkien fan would want, that's what they're going to do. And we just have to realize that and understand that it's not going to be for everybody. So yeah, again, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to think about. There's so many different the rights and all this stuff. I don't understand it all. So yeah, I'm really interested in what you have to say about this. Well, like where's your excitement level when it comes to all this? Are you a huge Tolkien fan? What have you read? What have you not read? Um, and where how you feeling? You know, is it a good thing, or are you kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like me, I don't know exactly where I stand because I know that there's tons of people that didn't read Lord of the Rings until the movies came out. So it was almost a Cliff's Notes for them, and they're like, oh, this is actually really interesting, and I want to dig deeper into all of this. So I don't know. I'm curious what you think, and especially if you have any insight on the rights and who can make what. I mean, is the first age open to interpretation? Or when it comes to a series or a movie, or is that just off limits? I mean, I'm really kind of curious if you know anything about that. But yeah, I guess I'll stop for today. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.